Hello and welcome to Just Vintage Crochet, and today I want to show you a couple of really neat stitch patterns that I found from 1912. Unfortunately, I can't put the patterns in front of you because my printer is on the fritz. They're really quick patterns, so we're just going to go over them. I'm going to use a sport weight yarn and a 4mm hook. So for the first pattern, it's called a twist stitch. It says to basically work up a chain count of 3, then add 2. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Just keep adding 3 until you have the length you want. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So just for a real quick little example here, I think that's as far as I will go. Then add 2. Now it says to turn, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into every stitch. So we're going to skip the first chain. There we go. And work 1 single crochet into every stitch across. When you get to the end, turn and chain 3, or you can chain 3 and turn, whichever way you prefer to do that. But yes, when you get to the end, turn and chain 3. Okay, worked my way all the way to the end. I will turn, chain 3. Now it says to draw a loop through the first stitch, and I believe they mean the actual very first stitch. So draw up a loop like that. Then you're going to skip 1 stitch, and in the next stitch over, draw up a loop. Now we want to keep doing this back and forth until we have a total of 7 loops on the hook. Now we have 3. So now we'll come back into the first stitch we went into and draw up a loop. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Go into the next stitch in front that we worked into, draw up a loop. The one in back, draw up a loop, and the one in front, draw up a loop. Now I should have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Yarn over and draw through all 7 and chain 1. Now in this same stitch we just worked into here, draw up your first loop. Basically what you want to do is you just want to go back and forth 6 times. Let me show you. We're always going to skip the one in the middle and the one next to it. So that was 1. This makes 2. Come back. 3, go forward. 4, come back. 5, and go forward 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Draw through all the loops and chain 1. And repeat into the into the loop we already worked into right here, the stitch we already worked into. We drop our first loop. 1. We always skip the next one over and the one after that. 2, come back. 3, go forward. 4, 5, and 6. Chain 1 into the same stitch. 1, skip, next stitch over. 2, come back. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Chain 1. Now I'll do it without talking. Now the first row is the fiddliest one. It's the hardest for us to keep a good grip on, but after this it gets faster and easier. So here we go. 1, skip the next stitch, the next one over. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 1, skip, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we just work 1 double crochet into the very last stitch. Then turn and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And right here into our very first little chain space here, you just go in and 1. Now we're going to skip over the whole little knot and into the next space over. 2. So we're going to work on both sides, on either side of our little knots here. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And yes, row 2 on up, if I didn't just slip my whole hook, row 2 on up is so much faster and easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And pull through everything. Chain 1. Now into the same stitch we just worked into. 1. Next space over. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Chain 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And you can use any size hook, any size yarn or thread that you would like. So I'm going to finish this row, and I'm actually going to work a couple of rows because the next row up is worked. All the rows are a repeat of row 2. All the rows are a repeat of row 2. So I'm going to work a few rows so you get an idea of how this looks worked up. Okay, and here it is after, I think I did 4 rows, but you see what an interesting, beautiful little twisted knot it makes on both sides. It is quite a stiff, thick pattern. It's really nice, and I think this would work well with the thicker weight yarns, you know, your number 5s, your jumbo yarns. Like, it's gonna really allow you to build a project up quite quick. Nice and thick, pillowy. I really, really like it. So this is the first pattern, and it's called the twist stitch. Oops. So now let's move on to what they are calling the cluster stitch. I'm going to use the same yarn and the same hook. So for the cluster stitch, it says to chain a number of stitches the length required. So I'm just going to do 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Now it says first row, single crochet in second chain from the hook. 1 single crochet. Now it says to draw a loop through each of the next 3 chain stitches. And actually, if I may, I played with this quite a bit last night, and I found that the single crochet causes your sides, your middle will be this thick while your sides will be like this. It doesn't create a nice level side. So if I may, I would say your first stitch, make a half double crochet. So I am altering the pattern just a little bit. Half double crochets on the end for the entire pattern, I found, keeps everything level instead of it going like this. Okay. Now we draw up a loop in the next 3 chains, kind of like we did with the last pattern. Just draw up a loop, 1, 2, and 3, yarn over and pull through all the loops. Now into the same stitch right here, the last stitch we just worked. Oh, and chain 1, sorry. Also with this pattern, the name of the game is going to be loosey-goosey. Draw up on that before you chain 1, because we have to work back into those chain 1s later on, and it can be a pain in the butt if we don't make that last stitch really loose. So now it says to draw through the same stitch that we just finished in. So not yarning over, no, regular. There we go, 1. Now the next 2 chains, 2, and 3. And again, loosely chain 1, trust me. In fact, you can do this whole pattern just as loose as you want. It's still going to come together quite nicely. So here we go. Draw up a loop into the last chain we just worked, and then into the next 2 chains. That's the repeat to the end. 2 and 3. Pull through and then loose chain 1 and into the last chain we just worked into. 1, there we go, 2 and 3, and then loosely chain 1. I'm just going to finish this whole row with you. 1, 2 and 3, and this is what you want to see. You want to see 2 chains at the end unworked. Pull through, real loose chain 1, and then 1 more of the repeats. 1, 2, oops, and 3, and chain 1, turn, and right in the top of this stitch here, we're going to work, I'm choosing to work a half double crochet, but it says to work a single crochet right there. Now into the space right here, this first little space stitch looking deal, little chain 1 look, draw up your loop into the top of that chain 1 that's over the top of your cluster. Work in that, pull up a loop, and then into the next space over. Oh my goodness. And into the next space over, pull up a loop. Pull through all of them, all 4, sorry, and then loosely chain 1. Now into the space we just worked into, again, pull up a loop over the chain 1 stitch over our cluster from the first row, pull up a loop, and over the space, pull up a loop, and loosely chain 1. And just keep repeating this. You're going to work, pull up a loop here, over the chain 1, and then over the next space area. 1, 2, and 3, loose chain 1, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, and end with a half, I would say a half double crochet. I would highly recommend. There you go. Because if not, it would have looked like this with a single crochet. And it would be looking like this on this side. It's just not cute. It's not cute. Even with the half double crochet that we started off with, it's trying to pull it up right here. But anyways, chain 1 and into the top of that half double crochet, I would work another half double crochet, but it says to work a single crochet. And I'm doing all these stitches very loose. And then right here into this first space, we start working our next cluster. And then into the top, right here is the top of that chain 1, and then here is our next space right here. And then loosely chain 1, and then into the same space we just worked into. 1, here is the top of our cluster. 2 and 3. 1, 2, and 3. It goes really, really fast once you get the hang of it. And remember, just be sure that you chain in loosely on those chain 1s, or else this takes a lot longer and it's a lot more frustrating trying to jam your needle, your hook into that tight chain 1. It can be really frustrating and annoying. Chain 1, And into the top of the half double crochet, I'm going to work a half double crochet. Chain 1, I'm going to work another half double crochet here. And right into this first space right here. 1, here's the top of my chain 1. 2, my next space over, 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. This one works up really fast. I worked that one too tight. This one works up really fast, really easy, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm going to work another couple of rows off camera, and then I'll come back and show you how it looks all worked up together. Okay, so here we are with a few more rows of this worked up. This would have been a really popular stitch for making children's kimonos, blankets, or even, I can never pronounce it right, toque, T-O-Q-U-E, hats, like beanie hats. So it's a really nice pattern. It's got a very unique texture. It's nice and light and fluffy. And it's a fun, fast pattern. So there you go. There are 2 vintage patterns, or I guess at this point, antique stitch patterns from 1912. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.